My in-laws always saw me as the poor one, the charity case their son married. This Christmas, sitting in their ridiculously decorated house, they really wanted to make sure I knew it. They spent the evening praising their golden child son for successes that didn't exist, all while taking shots at my modest life in front of everyone. To them, I was the family scapegoat, the person to blame for literally everything. What they didn't know was that the deed to their beautiful house was tucked away in my bag. I was about to become their new landlord. For 10 years, my life with my husband Mark's family has been a masterclass in psychological warfare. It didn't start with a bang. At first, it was just little things. Backhanded compliments about my simple taste, loaded questions about whether I was contributing enough, and the non-stop, glowing comparisons to my brother-in-law, Kevin. My husband Mark is a good man, truly. He's kind, he's loving, and for years he's been stuck in the middle of a toxic family dynamic he never asked for. He saw the favoritism. He saw how his parents, John and Susan, put his brother Kevin on a pedestal so high he could barely breathe the same air as the rest of us. It's a classic case of golden child syndrome, where one kid is treated like a perfect genius and the other is made to feel like a failure. Kevin was their golden child, the hero who could do no wrong. And I, by marrying their other son, became the scapegoat. John and Susan were obsessed with appearances. They lived in a sprawling house in a neighborhood they couldn't afford, drove luxury cars they were always trading up, and belonged to a country club that was bleeding them dry. Their entire identity was built on this illusion of wealth, and Kevin was the centerpiece. The funny thing is, Kevin was a total failure, but you'd never know it from listening to his parents. His string of failed startups, all funded by their retirement savings, were always spun as valuable learning experiences. When he leased a brand new BMW with their money, it was proof of his ambition. In their eyes, he was a misunderstood genius about to hit it big. In reality, he was an entitled man-child who'd never faced a single consequence in his life. The favoritism was just painful. I remember our first Christmas as a married couple. They gave Kevin a check for $10,000 to invest in his future. Mark got a tie. And me? I got a cookbook for simple, budget-friendly meals. The message was pretty clear. One year, they planned a family cruise to the Bahamas. We only found out when Susan accidentally let it slip, then quickly added, "Oh, but we knew you two would be too busy saving up to afford it, so we didn't want to bother you." I once had to sit at the kids' table during a holiday dinner because, as Susan said with a laugh, I just didn't have much to add to the adult talk about money. Every jab, every exclusion was meant to put me in my place as an outsider. It created a deep resentment, not just in me, but in Mark, who felt invisible next to his brother. He tried standing up for us, but it always ended with his parents accusing him of being ungrateful and letting that woman turn him against them. It was their classic move to keep their toxic little family system exactly as it was. This year was different, though. This year, I wasn't just showing up as the family punching bag. I had a secret. We walked into a scene of pure performance. The Christmas tree was offensively large and dripping with expensive ornaments. You could smell the catered dinner from the driveway. John and Susan gave Mark a quick hug and gave me a nod so cold I'm surprised my champagne didn't freeze. Then, the main event, Kevin burst in, an hour late, reeking of cologne and bragging about some valet. "Kevin, you're here!" Susan shrieked, hugging him like he'd just won a war. John clapped him on the back, his face beaming with a pride he never ever showed Mark. The whole dinner was the Kevin show. We heard about his new consulting gig, which I already knew from a quick Google search was an unpaid internship. We had to sit through a slideshow of his ski trip to Aspen, a trip he took while owing his parents thousands. Then, the spotlight turned to me. "So, Sarah," John started, a smirk on his face, "still working that little job of yours? Must be nice to have something to keep you busy." I just smiled. "It's going very well, thank you." Susan chimed in with a dramatic sigh. "I just worry about you too. Life is so expensive. I mean, this house alone, the mortgage payments are astronomical. It's a burden you'll probably never understand, which I suppose is a blessing." Her words were dripping with fake pity, complaining about money while trying to shame me for supposedly not having any. Then came the gift, the grand finale of humiliation they'd clearly been planning. Kevin got a brand new, top-of-the-line laptop. Mark got a sweater that was obviously a reject. Susan then slid a tiny, flimsy envelope across the table to me. "Just a little something to treat yourself," she said, her voice full of fake generosity. I opened it. Inside was a $5 gift card to a coffee shop. The table, except for Mark, erupted in snickers. Kevin laughed the loudest. $5. Wow, Mom. She can almost buy a whole latte with that. I felt that familiar heat in my cheeks. But this time, something else was there too. A cold, hard resolve. I looked at Mark. He was white with fury and started to say something, but I put a hand on his arm. "Not this time. This one was mine." The final straw came when John was complaining about the house again. Kevin, full of wine and himself, leaned back and said with a grin, "You know, Dad, if things are so tight, maybe you should just get new tenants." He looked right at me and Mark. "I'm sure there's a clause somewhere that says you can kick out family members who don't pull their weight." And my in-laws, they laughed. They actually laughed. John even raised his glass. "Now there's an idea, son." That was it. That was the moment any last thread of obligation I felt for these people just snapped. The game was over, and I was about to rewrite the rules. The picture my in-laws had of me was so wrong. It was almost funny. My little job wasn't a hobby. 6 years ago, I founded a software development company that handles logistics for the shipping industry. I started it from a spare bedroom with nothing but a laptop and an idea. I pulled 18-hour days, poured every dime back into the business, and slowly built it into a multi-million-dollar company. I never told them. It wasn't about hiding it. It was about protecting it. I knew exactly what would happen if John and Susan found out. First, they'd mock it. Then, once it was successful, they'd try to take credit. They'd demand money, offer their terrible advice, and try to get Kevin a cushy executive job. My success would just become another prop for their fake rich theater. No, thank you. My work was mine, and I refused to let them tarnish it. Mark, of course, knew everything. He was my biggest supporter, my cheerleader, the one who brought me coffee at 3 a.m. and proofread my business plans. He was so proud of me, and he completely got why I wanted to keep it a secret. He'd seen his family's greed up close his whole life, for years. We had been quietly building our own life, totally free from their drama and judgment. We lived in a comfortable house, but not a flashy one. We drove reliable cars. We valued experiences, not stuff. To his parents, this looked like failure. To us, it was freedom. The plan didn't come from a single moment of anger. It was forged over a decade of disrespect. The opportunity, however, just fell into my lap about 6 months before that Christmas. I was randomly browsing public records on Lean a Habit from my early days of vetting clients. On a whim, I typed in my in-laws' address, and there it was. A notice of pre-foreclosure. My heart started hammering. They were months behind on their mortgage. All the fancy cars, the country club, the constant spending. It was a house of cards. They were drowning in debt, and their biggest asset was about to be seized by the bank. For a second, I felt a flicker of pity, but it vanished when I remembered all the little cuts, the condescending comments, being left out, the way they worshipped their deadbeat son while ignoring their kind, hard-working one. I thought about all the pain they'd caused Mark. That's when a new feeling took over. Not pity, power. An idea, cold and sharp and absolutely perfect, started to form. I spent the next week on the phone with my lawyer and financial advisor. The plan was ruthless but simple. Banks hate dealing with foreclosures, so they often sell off the bad loans at a discount. We created an anonymous shell company, an LLC. That LLC then made a cash offer to the bank to buy my in-laws' mortgage debt. The bank, happy to get the bad loan off its books, accepted. Just like that, I became their lender. I owned their debt. And if they kept missing payments, I would own their house. It was all perfectly legal and totally anonymous. They would just get a notice that their loan was sold to some faceless corporation. They'd have no idea it was me. I'll admit, right before I signed the final papers, I hesitated. Was this too much? Was I becoming as cruel as they were? But then I thought of Mark's face at that last awful dinner. I thought of the $5 gift card. I thought of them laughing at the idea of kicking us out. This wasn't just revenge, it was about consequences. For 10 years, they had operated without any. Their cruelty, their financial irresponsibility, their toxic favoritism, it all happened in a bubble where they were the heroes. I wasn't just buying a house. I was delivering a reckoning. I signed the papers. For the next few months, I just waited. The LLC bought the loan. The notices were sent. And right on schedule, they missed their first payment to the new company. Then, the second. I let it happen. I knew Christmas was coming. I wanted the final showdown to be on their turf in the very house they were about to lose. Back at the dinner table, the laughter over Kevin's joke finally died down. John was still chuckling. The air was thick with their smugness. Mark was gripping his fork so hard his knuckles were white. Everyone was just waiting for me to shrink away like I always did. But I didn't. I took a slow sip of water, put the glass down, and looked right at my father-in-law. "Funny you should mention kicking people out," I said. My voice was dangerously calm, and the sudden change in tone shut everyone up. Even Kevin looked confused. I reached into the designer handbag they'd once called a splurge for you, dear, and pulled out a thick folder. I placed it on the table with a solid thud. John stared at it. "What's that?" "Well, John," I said, opening the folder, "you've been complaining all night about your financial burdens, about how hard it is to keep this house." I slid a document across the table. "This is the formation certificate for a company called Scapegoat Properties, LLC." Silence. Mark looked at me, and I could see the realization dawning in his eyes. I slid out a second document. "And this," I said, my voice like ice, "is the official notice that the mortgage debt on this property was purchased from the bank in full 3 months ago by that LLC." Susan's hand flew to her mouth. John picked up the paper, his hands shaking. He saw the address. He saw the bank's name. And he saw the name of the new lender. "And this," I said, pulling out the last piece of paper, "is a letter from the new owner. But I'll save you the trouble." I leaned forward, looking every single one of them in the eye. I looked at Kevin's stupid, shocked face, at Susan's tears, at John's face, which was turning a blotchy purple as their perfect world crumbled around them. "You see, you've missed your last 2 mortgage payments. What you didn't realize is that you're not supposed to be paying the bank anymore. You're supposed to be paying me. You're guests in my house, and insulting the landlord. Well, that has consequences." The silence that followed was the most satisfying sound I have ever heard. It was a heavy, dense vacuum where for 10 years there had been nothing but their noise and their judgment. John shot to his feet. "You can't," he sputtered, his face a mask of rage. "This is illegal. This is our home." "It's perfectly legal," I said, my voice steady. "And it stopped being your home when you stopped paying for it. It's an asset. And now, it's my asset." Susan burst into tears of pure self-pity. "Sarah, how could you do this to us? We welcomed you into our family." "You welcomed me?" Mark finally exploded, his voice shaking with 10 years of anger. He stood up and came to my side. "You did nothing but belittle her from day one. You mocked her, you insulted her, and you just sat here and laughed at the thought of throwing us out. She didn't do this." This is the bill for your own actions finally coming due. Kevin just looked bewildered, like the rules of the universe had changed without his permission. So, wait, he said, a weird calculating look in his eyes. You're rich? Like, really rich? He actually tried to smile at me. Well, hey, we can work this out. I'm great with business. We could be partners. I cut him off with a laugh so cold it made him flinch. No, Kevin, we couldn't. This is where you learn that actions have consequences. The real world isn't going to bail you out like Mommy and Daddy always have. I pushed the last document toward them. That is a formal notice to vacate. You have 60 days. Per state law, that's generous. I suggest you don't miss the deadline. Mark and I turned and walked out, leaving them in the ruins of their expensive dinner and shattered lives. We didn't look back. As we stepped into the cold night air, I felt a weight I didn't even know I was carrying finally lift. It wasn't just revenge, it was freedom. It was the end of their story and the real beginning of ours. So, there you have it. They built their family on a foundation of lies, favoritism, and debt, and it all came crashing down. Now I have to ask, what would you have done? Did I go too far? Or was this a perfect case of karma being served ice cold? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for listening.